Anthem is officially done. The long-beleaguered 2019 online multiplayer live service science fiction third-person shooter will no longer be a focus of effort for the development team at BioWare or its publisher Electronic Arts. According to a recent BioWare press release, the game, which was pummeled by critics and customers, was set to receive a substantial redesign sometime down the line called Anthem Next. But now those plans have been dashed, seeing as BioWare is opting to focus the weight of their development manpower on established franchises like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. In the meantime, Anthem will receive little improvements, updates, and tweaks, but long term, the game is finished. Anthem is over. This live service will now forever be remembered as a live failure. Admittedly, this news isn't too surprising. So many other games in the last decade launched poorly and failed to recover, even with significant financial and work time investment utilized to revamp them. Despite how many studios operate under the idea that they can release an unfinished game and update it later, games that regularly release as bad products often don't get the chance to improve. Hell, even when they do, the late effort often isn't enough to save the game. Sure, there are a few success stories like No Man's Sky and Star Wars Battlefront 2, which were both games that vastly improved in the years since their bungled launches, but those instances are incredibly rare. See, the thing is, badly launched games like Anthem and Fallout 76 are inherently flawed from a conceptual level, and in order to be fixed, they would need a complete overhaul to correct these multitude of issues. And with that in mind, Anthem always seemed destined to be another misstep, just another misfire upon the trash pile of failed AAA investments, just like Daikatana. Yep, we're bringing that joke back apparently. Anthem had many problems. In fact, the title had so many issues that it would have been a monumental undertaking to rework the game. Among its plethora of blemishes, Anthem lacked content, its world was bland and lifeless, the missions were repetitive, the story was weak sauce, and the game was just overall a solid tech demo rather than a good focused gaming experience. In short, there were and are a lot of problems with Anthem, and to be honest, nothing short of replacing the old game with a brand new one would have corrected all of those blemishes. In order to be fixed, Anthem would have needed to be remade entirely. But that obviously would have been too expensive and time-consuming for Electronic Arts to do for an IP that is basically worthless. Electronic Arts committing to Anthem's redesign was always going to be a stretch. Sure, Electronic Arts had been through a similar rodeo before. After all, they released Star Wars Battlefront 2, a game that was panned at release, but was reworked into being a better game via a couple years worth of updates and free DLC. Despite being the source of online mockery for its in-game gambling loot boxes and subsequent grindy progression systems, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is by all accounts considered a good game now. While I don't think Electronic Arts deserves praise for revamping a bad game into a good one so long after release, it is still worth noting that Electronic Arts was able to turn their bad game into something that was ultimately worth playing. But here is the thing about Star Wars Battlefront 2. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a Star Wars game, and Anthem is not a Star Wars game. The Star Wars brand is very valuable, meaning that EA had incentive to rework Star Wars Battlefront 2 after its troubled launch. Due to the popularity and lucrative nature of the brand, the Star Wars Battlefront IP still had value despite the most recent game's horrific release. With a fix, the game could still sell copies well after release, and EA could also still potentially build hype and audience goodwill before inevitably announcing Star Wars Battlefront 3. So of course, it stands to reason that retinkering with Star Wars Battlefront 2's core design was worth EA's time and effort. With Star Wars Battlefront 2, there was a financial endgame. There was a possibility to sell more copies and future Star Wars Battlefront products. Because even when Star Wars is bad, the brand and the IP really is valuable enough for EA to invest that much time, effort, and money to basically reinvent their game. Whereas Anthem is not worth all that much. From a business perspective, there is no financial reason to redo Anthem, save for winning back audience goodwill. And seeing as we are talking about Electronic Arts, that is a hard pass. EA generally does not bother or care about winning back audience goodwill unless there is a financial incentive to do so, which in Anthem's case, there isn't. Maybe EA would care if they were a smaller studio or publisher that release a minimal amount of games annually, but alas, EA is a major video game publisher, and seeing as Anthem is a brand associated with a single really bad game, it was not worth Electronic Arts' time, money, or effort to give it a makeover, which sadly means that Anthem is now done. Admittedly, as much as I hate Anthem, and I hate it a lot, I don't take pleasure in this news. The developers at BioWare endured horrible working conditions for this game. They crunched so hard that employees cried in office rooms, people either quit or went on leave due to the stress, which in the company was labeled as a stress casualty, and there was a clear lack of any meaningful direction or focus when it came to Anthem's development. It was chaos and complete project mismanagement from the start. And now that many people had to endure that shit show and put in who knows how many hours of labor into fixing this clusterfuck, it is over. Anthem will never be better than what it is now. It is a dead service. And more than anyone else, I sympathize with the workers who had to labor in those types of conditions at BioWare. While Anthem at release deserved to fail because it was a bad game, that's not the fault of all the people who worked on the game so extensively. They deserved better. Because at the end of the day, Anthem did not just fail as a product or fail financially. It failed its developers the most. And hopefully, Anthem's now defunct status will be the wake-up call that BioWare desperately needs. And with that, I want to thank my patrons, especially my high-tier ones in Slasher Avails, Mom, David Devlin, and Miles Nelson. Thank you so much for supporting what I do. Love y'all.